So I actually bought a scrapyard last summer. Yeah, not very many people know that.
You bought a scrapyard?
Yeah, like for
How
super
did that
cheap.
not come up earlier?
I know. I haven't told a lot of people.
The Fabricator Podcast is presented by Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs. As the foundation of the Fabricators Manufacturers Association, NBT is helping the next generation discover their future across the country in manufacturing through hands-on camps and scholarship programs. You can invest in tomorrow's workforce by visiting nutsandboltsfoundation.org. One more time, nuts and bolts
foundation.org.
Welcome back to our second episode with our friend Rae Ripple, who we chatted with at FABTECH. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. I think one of the things I enjoyed most was learning that she purchased a salvage yard.
Yeah.
I don't think she used that term, but that's what I'll call
It's
it.
a big scrapyard.
Yeah, scrap's probably better. Yeah.
For parts.
I assume for somebody that likes to make metal art, that's probably
It's a gold
win.
mine.
It's a must-have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's on
hopefully,
your Christmas list.
if there are any metal fabricators in the audience that actually rewarded their spouse with a bright red bow on top of a scrapyard, let us know. We'd love to share the story. But in the meantime, she's going to share some of her observations about owning it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, hey.
What it means.
Yeah. What would you do with a scrapyard?
I don't think I'd want a scrapyard.
No.
I have too much crap in my house now, and it drives me nuts. I can imagine having a large piece of land dedicated to collection of junk.
Oftentimes there is some order within the chaos.
Yeah.
Right?
I know people
Stacks
organize
of
it.
it?
I've been to them like looking for parts for a car and stuff like that. But
Have you really?
Yeah.
I went.
What did you
so
need?
How long
I went
ago
with a
was
friend.
this?
Yeah.
We were looking for a hubcap. It was from like a 1984. It was during for the auto enthusiasts out there. It was during the 1980s when the Mustang was just doing. Just desecrating the legacy of
Terrible.
its previous generations of cars.
Yes.
But he had one, and we lost it. It was a long story, but we were someplace we shouldn't have been, and the hubcap flew off as we hit a curb. So we had to go find a new one.
So when you go into a scrapyard, you're like, we need a hubcap for this year's.
An 84 Mustang in this
So they have the cars usually organized by at least make and model.
By menu, yep.
And if they sometimes I imagine years. This place roughly knew the years. So
Did you find it?
I think we did actually find it. Yeah,
I had to
it was
go
a
to
baby. It was a baby blue Mustang. Yes.
One of my early projects was to replace a windshield wiper motor on an old station wagon, a Chevy station wagon. My dad said, "Don't go to the parts store. You're going to pay too much.
Whoa.
Go find yourself a salvage yard." So I had to get, this is old school, kids, the phone book out, find one, and then of course, here's a 16-and-a-half-year-old kid, walking up.
Did
to
you
the
call up the
scrapyard.
operator, or were you able to dial straight to the business, Grandpa?
Yeah, hello. Actually, no, but yeah,
Let me put you
walking
through
onto the
from the-
lot, the
yeah.
guy's like, "Well, have your pick," and you look around behind, and
What kind of car was it?
it was a Chevy station wagon. Like,
Oh, wow.
Probably a 1979.
Wood paneling?
No paneling, all
So-
red, all one color.
So just for the audience, context for the audience, you grew up with how many siblings?
70. I'm one of seven. One of seven.
So was that the kid's car?
Eventually, I was able to take it for 1 year to college, but
Okay.
yeah.
And did that transition to the new windshield wiper motor work out okay?
It did. I was actually impressed.
Wow.
With myself a little bit. I worked on it by myself and
Yeah.
had to test it. I did get my hand smacked once. Who knew it was going to work, right?
There you go.
Went to turn it on, and but it worked. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like in any state in the U.S., having an operational windshield wiper in Wisconsin is probably the most important.
It's important.
Yeah.
It's important. Yeah.
You just
Year
can't stick
round.
your hand out while you're driving and do that thing?
You got to do the Ace Ventura, just stick your head out the window and drive.
Exactly. I tell my dad it's fixed. He's like, "Why are there 48 paper towels in the front seat?" You'll see.
All right, well, let's.
So, Scrapyard Adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear it from Rae.
Good enough.
Love it.
Today's episode is brought to you by the 2023 ALAW, Advanced Laser Application Workshop, for those that don't know.
Get in the know.
Manufacturing meets technology in this can't-miss Advanced Laser Application Workshop. Experience cutting-edge demos, open houses, hear from leading experts, and much more. We can't fit all this into one promo.
It's not enough time.
Whether you're in automotive, aerospace, agriculture, or general fabrication, you can't miss this. It's ALAW 2023, June 13th through June 15th. Register today at
FMAMFG.org.
one more time.
FMAMFG.org.
No excuse not to be there.
Get there.
So there's another project I saw on your website involved an automobile
Yeah.
with like the exterior. Can you kind
Oh,
of explain what exactly that is?
Okay, so I've been cutting up cars for quite some time. You know, it goes back to my tow truck days.
Yeah.
And so I've actually been cutting them up for quite some time, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, that one got all the attention. I don't know. But honestly, it's some of my best work. And it was also where my imposter syndrome showed the most, if that makes sense. Because the guy that owns this vehicle, he's a client of mine. He actually owns a collision paint body repair shop, right? So he actually has a vast collection of classic, cars.
Yeah. And what is that? What kind of car is that?
It's a 1950s model Chevy Deluxe.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and so it was a barn find for him. The body was actually in impeccable condition.
Really?
It was
Okay.
beautiful condition.
Wow.
When he reached out to me, he wanted it to be done in enough time for his mother to see it because his mother was dying.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like a whole thing. And so I actually got it finished cutting it in enough time for her to see it. So I actually named it after her. Her name is Phyllis-Jean. So if you ever hear me say Phyllis-Jean, that's her. But that car was very intimidating to me because he was like, I'm going to make it run and drive.
Yeah.
So right now it's bagged on some fat Y walls, got an LS motor in it, cherry red interior. It's like turning out to be extremely beautiful, but the pressure of this is going to be running and driving. Like this guy is paint and body. Like there's so much that's going to go into this and I can't disappoint him. And so I actually backtracked on myself. And I never draw stuff out or sketch stuff out. I usually just freehand, turn on some music and just go with it, see what happens. And this was one of those times I was like, no, I'll draw it on. And so I started drawing it on, and then I hated it, and I erased it. Drew it on again, hated it, erased it, drew it on one more time. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to full send, just see what happens.
Yeah.
Because once you cut it out, there's no putting it back.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so every single move you make has to be completely calculated, and so I just turned on some music, started at one end and worked my way all the way around.
So it was like a stream of consciousness, just cutting, plasma cutting all the way through?
Just movements.
Yeah.
Just movements, and I don't know how to explain it, but like I see the pattern in my head and I don't know how to put it out there for the world to see, but it's like almost like I'm a projector, you know what I mean? I see it on the material, but I can't draw it on the material.
Gotcha.
Like I just have to just do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So were the cutouts done with the sheet metal on the car, or was the sheet metal removed?
No, I keep it all together.
No kidding.
And I move pretty fast, so the heat doesn't have time to warp anything.
Okay.
So, I move.
So what are you using to make those cuts?
So actually, Hypertherm, of course. Everybody knows I'm a Hypertherm girl, and so So I used the new sink with it. So Hypertherm sent me the sink about a year before it was even released.
No kidding.
Basically just to kind of see what I could do with it. And because I'm so heavy duty on these machines.
Yeah.
And, if anybody's going to break it, it's going to be me.
Right.
And so used the machine, and, man, it was just flawless. Like, everything about it was just flawless. And so the cuts, flawless. Everything flawless. And so...
Yeah. That's
I'm
awesome.
still using the same machine that they sent me a year before they released. No problem. Still.
No kidding.
Wow.
I wonder if you're breaking news right now by saying that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a verbal NDA.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, it was an NDA at first, and they gave me permission to talk about it.
Yeah.
I can talk about anything
It's gonna
now.
come.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be out before you know
Oh,
it.
yeah. But no, the sink is already out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's already out. Like
Gotcha.
it released this year. So you can actually like go pick you up one right now. They came out with adapters, so if you have old machines too, you can use a adapter to put on the new sync cartridge.
Oh, cool.
It's really cool. It has like a computer chip in it, calculates basically all your movements.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's nice.
What I was say, what kind of music do you like to listen to? You said before that kind of helped with your inspiration in that particular project.
I think it just depends on how depressed I am that day, you know, that kind of thing. And these are very real things that nobody talks about. And so,
Sure.
like, of course I'm going to talk about it. But,
Right.
like, so much stuff goes on in my life every single day. And, you know, I'm balancing kids, you know. Well, I mean, an adult kid. My daughter's 18. She has Addison's disease. And so her health isn't always the best. And then, you know, I've got a almost 14-year-old son. And I
Right.
just started homeschooling him. And then the balance of I'm doing a lot of stuff with Northern Tool. I just shot a commercial with them. And like Residio products
Right,
and like a
right.
bunch of other things. And so my life is so crazy. It's so up and down, up and down, up and down. Well, that up and down, it really takes a toll on your mental health.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Definitely.
honestly, the music I listen to is a contributing factor to that. So like basically, however I want the sculpture to look, right, I'm staying in that mindset.
Okay.
So I'll literally listen to music. So if I'm depressed and I'm building a sculpture on depression, I'm going to stay depressed until it's done. Because if not, and I'm like, oh, happy-go-lucky all the time,
Right.
then the sculpture is not going to turn out the way it's supposed to. So I'll literally listen to sometimes songs on repeat, like for
sure.
weeks until the piece is finished, just so I can stay in that exact mindset that I started it in, so it does not change the sculpture or the direction of the
Nice.
sculpture until it's complete.
That's like
Consistency
method
again.
acting.
Yeah.
Almost.
So
That's like
it's like sometimes I listen to Hans Zimmer, sometimes it's Beethoven, sometimes it's screamo music. It just depends on what I'm going through.
Nice, cool.
Before we head out, you wrote yourself a children's book.
Yeah.
So when did you do this amongst all the other things you're doing? And what was the
So-
thought process behind it?
So I realized over the last couple of years how many little girls are watching me, and so I don't know if y'all have noticed, I kind of cleaned up the mouth a little bit and kind of cleaned up my act a little bit. You know, I didn't realize that, you know, I had so many eyeballs watching me. Like I went in every Sunday. I started doing this thing where I try to live life a little bit more instead of just focusing on work all the time. So at 5:30 every day, my shop doors closed. I spend time with my family. Sundays I dedicate to motorcycles, and so every Sunday I go ride. Before we go ride, we go to this little small town cafe in Big Spring, Texas called Estella's. They got the best biscuits and gravy you'll ever eat in the state of Texas for sure. Well, it's family owned. Grandparents do all the cooking. The daughter and the husband take care of the kitchen. The little girls, their girls always come up there, and like basically the Estella's Cafe is their babysitter.
Yeah.
The little cousins are the bus boys and stuff like that. So very homegrown stuff. Well, one day I was checking out, and one of the oldest, she's probably 8, she's looking down at her iPad, and she was watching Frozen. And I was like, what are you watching? She's like, I'm watching Frozen. And I was like, oh, yeah? I was like, I've never seen that movie. My kids are grown, but I heard it's a great movie. And her little sister kind of outs her, and she's like, oh, she watches it on repeat all the time. And I was like, no way. And they kind of went back and forth or whatever. Well, she continues chit-chatting with me for a minute, and then she watches her iPad again. Before I leave, she looks up at me from her iPad, and she says, I'm really shy, but I'm a really big fan of yours. And I was like, you know who I am? And she's like, yeah, I live down the street from you. I was like, you live down the street from me? And she was like, yeah, I've been watching you build sculptures in your driveway for the last couple of years. And I was like, you're kidding. And at that point it clicked, like, wait a second, there's so many little girls watching me. I had no idea I did were.
Right,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And then after that moment, it was just like, you know, kind of like when you are at the fire department, right? You're trying to get on with the fire department. You never saw a fire truck before that.
Right.
Every you know, that thing, the power of
Right.
suggestion, now you see fire trucks all the time. It's kind of the same thing. After
Yeah.
that, I started paying attention, right? And before I knew it, like, my friend went to the PRI show, and he texted me. He was like, hey, I got one of your little fans here. And I was like, really? And he sent me a selfie with her, and she was 10 years old, and she was wearing one of my hats. It said Rae Ripple. Well, her name was Olivia. Literally just 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, she sent me a flower that she made in her dad's shop.
Wow.
Welding. She's 10.
Wow.
I also have other flowers that little girls 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old have welded me from all over the country in my sunroom with all my plants. And so there's got to be that spark is there.
Yeah.
It's there way earlier than what we think, like, you know. And so I felt like little girls deserved to go to their library or pick up a book that says it's okay to want to be a welder when they grow up. And that's where When I Grow Up started. And it's been a process, of course. The character in the book is actually named after the little girl Olivia.
Okay.
From the PRI show. And so I just felt like it was my responsibility to do something, you know what I mean? And I don't take my position lightly. There's a grave responsibility that comes with what I do and the amount of little girls that are watching me. And so I want to contribute to that, and I want them to know that it's 100% okay to be unapologetically yourself and do whatever it is you want to do and whatever you decide to do in your life.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
So that's kind of the story behind it. I know.
What's been the reception from the book? And
what's the name of the book?
Not even outside of like the welding community, because I'm sure it impacts a lot of other people outside of that.
Oh, man. Dude, look, chills already. So I went and I've been speaking a lot at schools here lately. I've been going to colleges, high schools, middle schools all over the nation. Well, the children's book has kind of broke me into the elementary school market. So I went and spoke to over 700 second graders just a couple of weeks ago over the book. And the amount of little girls that asked me questions. Like, I tried to give each person my 100% attention, and I want to be able to hear what they have to say, and I want to be able to respond to that, and include second graders. The amount of little girls that resonated with this book and was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what I want to do. Even in second grade, the response is just tremendous. Like, of course, you have the people that are like, that book's trash or whatever. Everything on earth is trash sometimes, you know what I mean? So it may resonate with you, it may not. But I know with the little girls in second grade, first grade, and elementary school love it. And I mean, it's sold a ton of copies. It's done really, really well. And I'm hoping to turn it into a whole series. So
that was my next question. I'm
trying to turn it into a whole series. I learned a lot about this book, like publishing it, because I self-published. I wrote it and I illustrated it.
Wow.
So, and it was a whole family operation, and it was probably the hardest fucking thing I've ever done in my life.
Really?
Like, literally, especially being a dyslexic kid, you know? And so, also being a dyslexic kid, these kids deserve to know that, hey, you can have dyslexia and still be a published author. And so there's so many different factors and layers to this book that I really want to turn it into a series.
I got another question. The art piece that you have at the Hypertherm booth, what is that exactly?
So it's a 1940s Chevy. I don't know what model, but it's a Chevy car hood.
Oh.
So I actually bought a scrapyard last summer. Yeah, not very many people know that.
You bought a scrapyard?
Yeah, like for
How
super
did that
cheap.
not come up earlier?
I know. I haven't told a lot of people. But there was a bunch of these on there. And so that's kind of where it came from.
Okay, so you bought a scrapyard?
Yeah.
Like,
talk that
what
through.
kind of, like, is like one like where there's a bunch of automobiles and you go in there and pick parts, or?
Well, there's like probably 15 million tires on
Okay.
it. Besides that, there is a lot of really cool things on it. I actually went down there. So I was working on another car, and it only had 3 rims on it, and I just wanted a rim to weld onto the hub to kind of complete it type situation. And because this one was going to be yard art, basically.
Okay.
And so I went down to this scrapyard down the street. I used to take stuff there whenever I was a tow truck driver. Now I was like, I know they got some rims I can buy for like $5, type situation. So I went down to that scrapyard, and it was a woman there, and it's not the normal man that owned it. And it was, she was like, yeah, it was my dad's. He passed away. She's like, I'm trying to clean up the property. She was literally in a bus cleaning up this property, or trying to.
Sure.
And she's like, I just want to sell it. I just want to get rid of it. And I was like, well, what would you sell it for right now with everything on it? And she gave me a deal I just absolutely could not refuse. I basically stole the property. And realistically, I was going to actually move on it, clean it up, and like build and like live with all this scrap, because I thought it would be so cool. But
immerse yourself in like scrap metal.
Yeah, which is the perfect world for me. But we drilled for water, and we hit tires at 150 feet. So this guy has been burying tires for years.
Wow.
So there's no water on it.
Oh,
And so realistically, it's an unlivable property, and it's not really worth anything. But there's a lot of things on it that are worth a lot of things, like money for me. You know what I mean? So I just collected all these cool things, and anytime I need something to add to a sculpture, it's like the perfect little gym to find stuff. Yeah.
So do you have any other plans for it? Is there just going to be like your personal scrapyard place?
Just basically just my little cherry picking spot.
So what else is going on we don't know about?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the middle of building 2 giant axes for Timbercraft whiskey, and then of course the Christmas tree.
Nice.
And then after that, I've got some really cool stuff with Buffalo, New York going on next year.
Oh, wow.
Of course, more schools and more visits, and hopefully my next book will come out
More
next
books.
year.
Wow.
I'm working on my memoir right now, so get ready. I'm telling the truth about everything.
Right.
But, you know, that
That'll
kind
hold
of
back
thing.
some things.
Yeah.
No
so
secrets.
yeah, I'm working
Awesome.
on everything. Anything and everything that I can get my hands in, that's what I'm doing.
Well, you're making me tired, but congratulations for
I'm
all
always
your success.
tired, too.
Too many hot dogs for me.
I know.
You
Not
we
enough
looked it
for
up.
me.
77 people die a year from, or at
Did
least.
you just Google it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we Googled it.
Oh, my God. Are you
14 years
serious?
and
See?
under, it's kind of a sad
It's a big
stat.
number. That's
Yeah.
a big number.
It's a lot.
I don't know.
We didn't look up the amount of like stunt bike riding.
Yeah, don't look at that
no,
number.
don't look
Stats
that up.
don't.
That's probably a lot more, but
That
don't
might
look at
fall
that
under
number.
miscellaneous in most federal
Yeah.
reports.
Right.
Well, I mean, when I signed my life insurance policy, she put some sort of clause in there, and I was like, is it considered suicide if you're on your bike and you're doing stupid stuff on your bike? Is that considered in that category? She's like, no. No, absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But
I'm getting to the age where I had to call about my life insurance. And I was asking my wife, you're like, when does this thing, like, when's it come to its end?
Yeah.
She's like, what are you thinking about? I'm like,
For you
So-
or me.
yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. So life insurance discussions are a sign of strength in a relationship.
it is. And you know what's funny? That's how you know you've made it in the world if you have a life insurance
Yeah,
policy.
no, that is. Yeah,
That is,
I remember
mean,
that happened.
when growing up, of course, and like being a young adult and a mom with, 2 kids, like I was always terrified, obviously, if something
Right.
happens, because who knows, I could fucking choke on a hot dog, And so what would my kids have? And like the second that I was able to get a life insurance policy, that was it. I was like, how much can I get? She was like $1 million. I was like, sign me up.
Done.
Yeah.
No,
there
I'm
you
just
go.
kidding. I don't have $1 million.
Hot
life
dog
insurance
protection is extra.
policy. Don't kill me.
Yeah.
See what?
Super duper coverage. Super duper hot dog coverage.
Super duper. Yeah.
So anyway, well, thanks for joining us today,
Of course.
Ray. We
Thank y'all
enjoyed
for
your
having
company.
me.
And where
Obviously, I'm
can
a
people
talker,
find
so
you?
yeah. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, the internet, you name it.
All right,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
FABTECH.
FabTech.
On an
Metal Shop
airstrip
Masters.
going fast.
Huh?
Yeah.
Around armadillos.
Well, I did.
Yetis.
Did you see? I did Roadkill Nights. Yeah, I got to stunt for Roadkill Nights, which
Yeah.
was super scary. I was like, this is it. This is the moment I'm going to crash. Everybody's going to watch it on television. It's going to be crazy. Yeah, that was pretty wild. So,
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
that's something else
Anywhere
you didn't
and
tell us.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We have to talk about that.
I know. Yeah, it was
I'm
a
gonna
lot
go back
of
to
fun.
I'm gonna go back to podcast hosting school.
Dude, yeah. Well, everybody's like, you should be a host or a co-host. You
Yeah,
get
you're
people
right.
talking, and I was like, I'm just naturally a talker.
Yeah, but I'm not digging enough to get all this good scoop.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I
I was
won an award
actually
here,
I'm
too.
easily distracted by large like steel fabrications of animals.
Yeah?
So we spend 50 minutes on this and we cover
That's
scrap
funny.
yards for 10 minutes and
Tow trucks.
televised
Love it.
bike
Yeah.
stunt riding for like
Yeah.
1 minute.
Well, something outside of that, I did win an award from the AWS.
Oh,
Yeah, the honorary award. I did get that.
Talk about it.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I cried a little bit in
Yeah.
Hypertherm's closet,
Oh.
That was a pretty big deal for me. I've never won an award before, so
Right.
that one's definitely going everywhere I go. I'm
Right.
just going to hang on to it everywhere I go. Like,
Just
look what
get
I
a big
got.
chain and
Look
wear
what I
it.
got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it into like a whole
Yeah.
thing.
So
But-
what was the award for? Talk.
I'm an honorary member. It's just
Yeah.
my work in the welding community. I really don't feel like I'm doing that much, you know what I mean? So it doesn't seem like I'm doing that much, but it's like, I don't know. I
You're
feel
giving
like,
it personality.
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know.
That's a big thing.
I love what I do.
Garrett, there's hope for you too.
I'm waiting
Mr.
for my first award
Personality.
too.
So,
Wait up, we'll work on your to-do list so you can get to that area.
Roadkill Nights, check.
Yeah, no, that's what he is.
Check.
Actually, some of us went to an Atlanta Hawks game the other night, and we were walking down the street, and there's this person walking down the street in this big dress, and
Was it me?
it was you.
Oh, I was in my princess dress. Okay, so I collect ball gowns. That's another thing that I do. Like, I will vacuum my house in them just because, like, I feel like I'm like Cinderella sometimes. And, like, I always had this, like, I never got to be the princess as a kid. Like, I was always in love with, like, Disney movies. And so basically, like, my inner child is, like, sees this ball gown. I'm like, I'm going to buy that. So I have this, like, vast collection of ball gowns. And just whenever I'm, like, not doing anything, because I don't go to, like, shit like that, you know, on a daily basis. And so when AWS had the opening reception, I was like, my time to shine.
All right, I'm gonna this layer keeps getting peeled back on this onion.
Yeah, I like walked out the closet and like slid my hand down all my dresses. Which one's gonna be the one?
How many? Do you own pets?
Huh?
Do you own pets?
Yeah, I actually have a whole like little farm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, what is it like? Do you have a llama?
Not yet. Not yet. They're only like $2,500. So I'm working on it. Yeah, I want a pygmy goat.
What do you have? Pygmy goats are good.
I have 2 chickens and a duck. I actually rescued them from a chicken fighting farm, which is kind of cool.
That's no good.
So they're living their best life right now in my backyard. I have 3 dogs. I have Stetson. He's like 2 days older than Jesus, and then so is Shiloh. So they're grandparents. And then I have a pup who's 3. His name is Harley. And then I have a bearded dragon and 2 cats. And, I have a lot of animals. Okay, I love animals.
Nice. All right.
So you're going through the process of buying a llama?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I'm trying to get a goat, too. I want a little pygmy goat.
Yeah.
I'm going to let it come inside, though. It's going to be like a dog. Okay. So it's going to come inside. I'm going to train it to go potty outside.
Oh.
Yeah, like everybody's like, you can't have all these animals together. I was like, watch this. All my animals are together.
Yeah.
So wait for the big flood. Get them on the boat.
Is the zoo on the list? Scrapyard check.
Yeah.
Maybe
Honey, I fabricated a zoo. My favorite Matt Damon movie.
This is the thing: is we live every single day and we only die once. You know, so I'm trying to do all the things I possibly can before it's my time to go. So if animals and scrapyards and roadkill nights and all the things that scare the shit out of me, I'm gonna do them all.
Well, that's good.
Love it.
So.
Really, I feel
Were
inadequate.
we supposed to end this like 15 minutes ago?
I have a dog. One.
I have a
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he hates me. But anyway.
He hates you.
That's a me thing and not really a us thing.
Mine love me.
Next week, I'm going to walk into Dan's office. He's going to be like scrolling on his computer, trying to find how to like stunt motorcycle ride and how to buy a scrap.
It's really not as hard as you think. You just gotta like, I don't know. Not
what was the
scared
first
of dying.
stunt you did? Like, how do you ease into that?
I just did it. Like, Indian Larry. I love Indian Larry. He's like a huge inspiration to me. Obviously, he's a badass bike builder. I mean, he actually died doing the stunt that I do.
Really?
Yeah, he passed away unfortunately doing the stunt that I do. But he was doing them on choppers, and he did not wear a helmet ever.
Gotcha.
And so like I'm trying to help live on his legacy of that classic stunt, and just stunt life too is like something that like. I don't know, it's a lost art, I think, and so especially that stunt, and so I don't know, I just full send. I want to do something different. I don't always want to just do what everybody else is doing.
Clearly, yeah.
Sitting around eating hot dogs, watching TV.
Yeah. Is
Dangerous.
there a stunt
This whole podcast is about hot dogs. Okay?
Yes. It
It
always
one in
is.
a while.
Yeah.
It's actually on my mind now.
It is lunchtime.
It is.
Right.
It is.
This is her lunch break, technically, and we're
Hold
talking
it.
about
I
food.
know. Yeah, it's okay. No, I'm totally fine with it. I got to go do another podcast after this.
Yeah.
Arc Junkies. Yeah.
Right, Archie. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Unless we dig up something else.
Right.
Yeah.
On the way.
Stay tuned
All right.
for part 2.
Thank you, Rae.
I know, part 2. Dude, anytime y'all want me on, just
That's
call me.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Call me. I'll make time for you. I'm totally here for it.
That's
Awesome.
great. So remember, Fabricator Podcast.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Get it where you get your podcast, rate and review, and we'd appreciate it. And until next time, thank you and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.